It's time for 4Developers Wrocław, an amazing event, a full day of presentations, 20 plus speakers, 300 participants, 5 tracks. And here is how it was. First up is the conference opening ceremony by ProIdea, which is the organizer. Hey, I'm just about to start. I have 15 minutes to my presentation, but look at this room. It's big, right? I need to get my laptop going and wish me luck. This time I had no technical issues and my presentation went flawless. I was really pleased. I talked a bit about Azure SignalR. I talked about how it works and I shared the code. The example I showed was a quiz. So in the middle of the presentation, I asked audience to take part in it. And it was a decent surprise that a lot of people took part. I think most of the attendants, like 30, 40 plus people. Yeah, and that went great. I asked 3 questions, they answered, and the winner got a book as a reward. First presentation that I attended was about maintainability by Grzegorz Wilczura. I also had a pleasure to have a short interview with him. Here with me is Grzegorz Wilczura from Sebia, great developer. He just finished his talk on the conference and I have a couple of questions to you. So you mentioned that functional code is more important than documentation. But documentation is also important. Can you build on that?
Yeah, so I think that people who follow the principles of Agile, they tend to forget that the summary was what's on the left is more important, but what's on the right is still important. So the fact that the working code is more important than documentation still does not mean that your documentation doesn't matter. You still have to keep it. And it doesn't have to be a very comprehensive documentation, large documentation. But what for me is important is keeping the record of your decisions, stuff that actually impacted your project. So there is a term called ADR, Architectural Decision Records, and I think that every team on every level should keep architecture decision records, even if they are small ones. They will help developers that follow them in the future to actually understand why things were done the way they were.
One other thing that I picked up from your presentation is that technology that we know and we are familiar with is important. However, the general knowledge is actually more important than that. If you know MS SQL Server, but you doesn't know Oracle, it's important that you doesn't know it, but still you can adapt. And
yes, that's basically the point. We are basically in a situation when software vendors actually are in a state of war between each other, right? But in the end, they provide very similar solutions or functionality. This is very much visible in the example of cloud, right? Actually, GCP, AWS, or Azure, they offer very similar services with different names, with unfortunately very different configuration options, so to speak, right? And you have a feeling that you have to specialize. You have to be Azure developer. You have to be AWS developer to be relevant in the market. All of those solutions that cloud provides, they are based on a generic, well-known architecture patterns, right? You need to know networking, you need to know load balancers, you need to know queues, you need to know scaling, all of that stuff, and then you are relevant, and it doesn't matter what cloud is the project using.
Exactly. The technology, the services, they develop, they appear. You adopt new technologies, new services, but the general principles you have to know, they stay the same.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for this interview, and have fun on the conference. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Next up was Artur Guła, who talked about digital body language. Even a small punctuation mark can change how what you say is perceived, and even how it differs who is saying that. Is it a man or a woman?
Today is with me Dawid Pertek, that is going to have his presentation. I bet it's going to be a good one.
I hope so, yeah.
It's about Angular signals, and it seems to be a new thing, that it's a very big hype at the moment. Is it a new thing that is going to supersede RxJS?
So actually, it is not a new thing. I mean, you may say that it is new for Angular, but the concept itself is not new at all. It was around in the front-end world since Knockout.js, so it's very old. Mm-hmm. And it's just like came back to the front-end world. Right now, Angular is introducing that, and it will definitely not get rid of RxJS. It is more like a complementary technology for different use cases.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that actually the same principle existed before?
Yeah.
So it's making a circle all the way around. Okay. We are actually met in Poznan for the first time at the conference. And here we are at the 4Developers Wrocław. How do you like it?
It's great. I mean, I've been to 4Developers 3 times, Katowice, Poznań, and Wrocław.
Okay.
I mean, I like it the best here because I live here. That maybe.
It's convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient for me. I live like 10 minutes away from the hotel. Yeah, but in general, it's a very well organized conference. Yeah, I just like it. I really recommend going as a regular participant and also as a speaker.
And also, yeah, I can add to that. It's a whole new level to be a speaker because you get the excitement and emotions and a bit of stress as well. But yeah, participate is really worth it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you around.
See you around.
Thanks.
Next up was Rafał Schmidt, who talked about unlocking the complexity of documentation, and he had a good flow of talking, and he showcased one tool that I found useful, which is Mermaid, to generate documentation, and they actually use it in Allegro Pay. Mateusz Buczkowski talked about vertical video marketing for developers, and I found it really insightful that he mentioned that 10 million Polish people are using TikTok, and they spend 23 hours on average per month, which is a stunning value. for me especially, that I'm not watching TikTok, I'm not using it. And he also brought up an example that a girl called Natalia Shisik is mentioning one news per day on TikTok, and she actually has more viewers than BBC News. Last talk that I attended was conducted by Grzegorz Piotrowski about Dapper, a really good talk. I learned a lot from it. However, he mentioned that in the end that Dapper could be immature in some parts, so you might not be able to do everything with it. And I'm not surprised, because Azure has so many options that it's really hard to cover everything. That's it for this year's 4Developers Wrocław. I liked the event very much, and I'm looking forward for the next one. I hope you liked the video. Give me a shout in the comments. And if you have an idea where to go next, and if you like this kind of videos, give me a shout, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.